either by a clerical group or by the state as necessary for our marriage, for our living together. However, as we reached the age of retirement and Social Security, I had heard the stories of other anarchists, of the great difficulties they had to establish their right to Social Security when they were not married. And I thought it would be better to avoid this difficulty and get legally married. I went there with my daughter and her children, and my grandchildren were the witnesses to the marriage that we had. Lynn and Gerald were about 3 or 4 years younger, or 5 years younger, and they were our witnesses. Do you remember the marriage we had?
Yeah.
One of the most important reasons for the decline of the Jewish anarchist movement and of the whole old immigrant movement, which saw its height from 1880 to 1920, was that they were dying out. And the number of Yiddish readers was dying out in general. As I say, anarchism for them was part of their immigrant experience, that their revulsion against America, in which they couldn't find a place, a comfortable place. They couldn't speak the language. They were being forced to work for small wages in sweatshops, long hours, and so on, so that they rebelled and reacted against this and became radicals and joined the anarchist movement. But times had changed even there. They were collecting Social Security checks. They were receiving higher wages. They had bought themselves homes and automobiles, and they were living a pretty much, in many cases, a middle-class existence. And their children were not carrying the torch of anarchism. The children were American-born. They faced none of the problems that the immigrants faced in terms of culture, alienation, language, exploitation, oppression. They lived rather comfortably. They spoke English. They were native-born. They went to school here. In many cases, they became professionals. They went to law school and medical school. They were assimilated very rapidly. It was very difficult for the old generation to be assimilated.
So now you've been an anarchist all these years, and what about your children or your grandchildren? Are any of them anarchists?
No, you see, they don't now. For instance, my son, he believes in every tier of the anarchists, but he says he wouldn't belong to any group or any, there is none where he lives. And so they pass their life away without being active. He would come, he used to come to the freie Arbeiterstimme. If he do something, he would help out, but none of them.
Do you feel that they're really missing something important?
Personally, yes, I would like them to. But you see, anarchist movement is not a movement that you have a say, or like the communists, you impose things of your ideas. We don't. We can talk to them, agitated, but we don't impose. So you do as you please. And the same thing was with the kids. They know that I'm an anarchist, and they really respect me and everything. And they'll go with me when I'll ask them, or they'll give me money when I need for the movement. But they themselves, he says, I don't want to call myself an anarchist because I'm not doing anything.
Well, my grandfather was Joseph Cohen. He was an anarchist leader, and as much as an anarchist can have a leader. And he was, about 50 years ago, he was the editor of the freie Arbeiterstimme for several years. And I guess he's the person in our family, in my family's history, that I know the most about. Everyone in the family has always been very proud of him and what he did. And so my father's always been taking great pains to explain to me what an anarchist was from the time when I was a very little boy. Your grandfather was an anarchist. He was a philosophical anarchist. He believed that people should live together in peace, and he didn't throw bombs. And that's always irritated my father tremendously, that people thought that all anarchists were bomb throwers and never bothered to learn what the ideas of Kropotkin or any of the other anarchists were.
A Welt, wo keiner wird nicht regieren über dem anderens Arbeit und Mie. Frei wird sein jedes Herz und Gehirn. Das ist Anarchie. A Welt, wo Freiheit wird jeden beglicken, dem Schwachen und Starken, dem Er und Sie. Wo deins und meins wird keinem nicht drücken. Das ist Anarchie.
Look at me.
Do you recognize?
Oh, yes.
Was she good looking in those years?
This is Molly Steimer, right?
Yeah. Molly and Fanny Wrestler. Pass them on.
It's the only picture Molly has of me. I think.
How does your anarchism apply to your life today?
Well, today, very, very little. But it is this small group, and I'm sure, in case of need, one for the other. We wouldn't hesitate or stop at any time.
That's what Kropotkin called mutual aid.
And within our means of physically and financially. And we've been doing it.
So anarchism is not just a theory, it's something that you have to, you have to apply it as an ethic. It's an ethic that you...
I know personally, I can say, and I really lived anarchism. And I feel that anarchism you have to live, not only preach it and talk about it, you have to give an example of yourself.
You know, when two Jews get together, there's always a third question, 3 questions. And the same with the anarchists. Law and order among ourselves could be better organized. But the worth sentiments of each other, you don't get, at least I didn't get it in all my years anywhere else.
Henrik Ibsen, in 1870, writing a letter to Georg Brandes, said, "Tie yourself to a star and sail with it." Every person must have a star, an ideal to which he clings. The ideal may not be realized today or tomorrow, but you must have an ideal which will carry you forward in life, will inspire you to do deeds and acts. We are living in a society, we have made economic progress, we may have made here some slight progress, but ultimately, we are living in a society with our slaves, poverty, misunderstanding, social injustice, all the wrongs of society. And there are people like, foolish like myself and many others, call ourselves anarchists, who feel that this injustice can be done away with, that people can be educated. We must in our soul believe that justice must prevail. We must have that concept that we are going to carry on little by little. You see, the trouble is when you get people into a movement and they see the revolution over tomorrow, and it doesn't come tomorrow, they become disillusioned. They were never revolutionaries. They never had a concept, a true understanding. If the understanding, no matter what happens, you will carry on that ideal. You feel that justice must prevail. The concept of justice, moral certainty, that right is right. It is the doctrine that no matter what you call it, anarchist syndicalist, anarchist individualist, anarchist communist, whatever label you put to it, what is the ultimate goal of all these scattered ideas? Whether it's the idea of Proudhon, whether it's Kropotkin, whether it's Malatesta or anyone else. Each one had little variations, but the ultimate ideal, the ultimate concept of all of these people was ultimate human justice for everybody. And that is the ideal that anarchism stands for.
Der schlägt sich unhot Meure, will mit uns in Kampf nicht gehen. Jener ist a starke Bäuer, jener ist a starke Bäuer und soll bleiben in der Welt.